Hey guys, this is part two of God's affliction is His mercy, um, or the affliction of the Lord is His mercy. Um, I read from Psalm 119, verses 67, 71, 75, and 92. And there's other scriptures, and I gave the analogy of like how many times the Israelites, God's people, we are the spiritual Israel, now that the Gentiles are grafted in. And God will bring us to affliction to squeeze the anointing and get His perfect will to be done in our life, and to let His glory pass before us. And trust me, if you think you have any other desire in your heart that's better than God getting glory, you're wrong. Because if you have the privilege of seeing the glory of God pass before you in this life, before we go to heaven, and many of us will, I believe, in these last days, in many different forms, there's nothing greater that'll touch your heart. It's the love of God, and it's all wrapped in to blessing you, and ultimately making sure that you escape the wrath and the fires of hell and the destruction incinerator that God is creating for all the sin and unrighteousness in the world. You guys want sin and unrighteousness to be destroyed? All the wickedness in this world. Well, God's clearly spelled out that He's already on top of that. It's coming, and all He asks us to do is be found in His righteousness, endure to the end. So that's all we got to do. But anyways, part two, I just wanted to add about, I was talking about there at the end of the video about the roots in our lives. I have specific people in my life that are suffering from things on top of what I'm suffering from, and God's been showing me people, there's roots there in your life. There's roots of things that we haven't dealt with. Rooms in your temple. There's rooms in your temple that God is knocking on the doors, and He wants to get in there and clean those things out. And some of them might be really nasty and dirty, and we don't want to expose them. And it might get to the point where your flesh really wrestles against God's Spirit, prompting you and say, no, I want to go in there. I want to go in that room. Let me see what's in there. And you're like, no, God, I don't want to go there. I don't want to go there. And you're on your deathbed, or suffering from a cancer, or, your spouse leaving you. And then what happens is we easily start making excuses for ourselves. And we start saying, oh, well, we're just, in the case of a divorce, we're different people. Or, I ruined it beyond repair. Or, it can never be fixed. And, we just start mocking God. It's like, God paid for all these things. He hates divorce. It's like He can restore anything. Now, I mean, specific cases, they're dead, long, and gone in certain divorce cases, where people have remarried and they've started a new covenant with someone else. But even for those of the people who believe lies in the past, that they were justified in leaving their spouse or whatever, it's all lies from Satan, and you need to deal with some of those issues. And it's sobering, because if we don't deal with some of them, we could very well be dying in our sin and not be saved because we ignored and we stole glory from God in the earth. That's what happens when we make excuses. That's what you're doing. You're stealing God's glory. You're stealing glory from God. He deserves and He's worthy of all honor and glory and praise, and He's going to get it all in the end. Especially when we're all standing up there and we have to give an account for every idle word and every deed done in our bodies. He's going to have it on the jumbotron up there, and everybody's going to see it. Everybody's going to see it, Like God gave me an analogy. I'll just jump into some analogies here. I go off on a tangent, but it's all interlinked. But God gave me this analogy of, what happens when you get pulled over by the police for speeding or, doing some, violating a traffic law, a law, and you see those lights flash and you're like, oh man, the ball gets up in your throat, and the phlegm ball, and you're like, oh my goodness, what's going to happen to me? I'm in big trouble, this and that. Now I want you to take that feeling, okay, and multiply that by 1 billion or more, 1 trillion or a zillion, infinite, okay? That's what it's going to feel like when you first stand in the unhindered presence of God. And that's why He doesn't show up right now. And I used to be ignorant. I used to say, well, where is God? Why wouldn't He come now and just reveal Himself to me? I'd serve Him. Yeah, well, I'd serve him as a slave from that point on. I wouldn't have a choice to believe. He's so wonderful and awesome and splendorous. And that's even if I'm still alive, because the presence of God will kill you. There's a scripture in the Bible that says that. You can't, no one's seen God, he would die. And the only difference is that we're covered in the blood of Christ, and we're found in the righteousness, which is God, which is his word, which is who he is. His word is who he is. It's from his heart. That's for Trinitarian doctrine out there. It's garbage too, another heresy. Academics discerning the word and not spiritually discerning the word, because God's not giving them grace. And they'll find out in the end, if they don't humble themselves, and God doesn't give them grace, which is really the paradox. But anyways, enough of the ranting. I may talk a big game, guys, and I want you to know I love you guys more than you know, and that is God's judgment and it's tough love. God is love. That's the greatest form of love, is sacrifice. And to bear about the sufferings of Christ in our mortal flesh is the greatest honor we could ever have in this life. We'll never strive to what he did. So we can be, like Paul said, to die is gain. To live for Christ. So to die in all forms, not just a sort of physical death, but as spiritual death in ourself, from ourself, our spirit, our soul and spirit self. But anyways, yeah, I just wanted to touch on that. It's like, folks, I beseech you, if there's something you're going through in your life, cry out to God, and don't hinder any door from God, letting God walk into any room. Don't hinder him, because he wants to bless you, and he wants his perfect will to be done in your life. But too much is given, much is required. If you want to see the glory of God pass before you, and you hunger and thirst for righteousness and to see people saved, are you willing to lay down your life for your friends and let God maybe humble you and take you to a place of maybe some worldly embarrassment, just cutting your pride, and God says he will humble those that parade themselves around, and he will make and those who are abase, they will be exalted. Are you willing to let God take you to a state of abase, where you're humbled and broken down, knowing that that's the greatest method that God works in, is like a blessing, because you should be happy and rejoice in that. That's why Paul said, why was he praising God in prison, being like tortured and things like that? Because he knew it was like bringing him closer to God. Every day he was getting closer to where either God would just take him home, by some means of man, which ended up happening, and just doing the will of God. It just he just could see that was the way that God worked. So if there's stuff going on in your life, guys, humble yourself. Don't let the pride of life, your ambitions and things you're doing, and you think that those things are who you are, what job you have or what you do, or the things that you even like or you dislike. Don't let those things get in between you and a spouse. This is about the glory of God in everything you do. None of those things should take precedent. Is it going to matter? Where are you storing up your treasure? Is it going to matter? Are the things that you're involved in, are they really glorifying God and bringing people to salvation? If they're not, you're wasting your time. You're wasting your time, and then it could be stealing the glory of God from a real miracle happening, not only abroad, but in your own life first, And I mean, like I said, I talk the talk, and I'm going through this right now in my own life, but it's tough, folks. Like I'm right now, I know what it means for the flesh to wrestle against the spirit. God's been showing me what he wants me to do, is just go out and preach the gospel, die to myself, and give up my life, and even throw away my last little possessions, and it's hard because I have to take a step of faith. I don't really have any proof that God's going to meet me there, but other than what his word says and what he's done in history with my brothers, the apostles, and all the early church, and the church that has existed underground. I don't mean underground, but I mean the real church that's been labeled heretics and everything, because even the so-called church called them heretics because they didn't spiritually discern that these people were really hearing from the Spirit. So anyway, I love you guys. Grace and peace, and if you have any comments or questions, just share them with me. Bless you.